आफताबे.
The video that you're about to see, the idea for that video came several months before Master's visit in 2000. We in America had done two videos prior to that that had come from a seed that Master had planted in the early 1990s when he said we needed to learn to talk to Americans about Sahaj Marg. So two videos had been produced, one with an interview of Master, and another one where Abhyasis were able to sit in and ask questions right directly to Master, and so that people all over the country and the world could see people being very natural and Master being very natural with them, and with the variety of people that are in our mission. So just before his tour in 2000, the idea came to expand that to talk about have an opportunity for parents to meet with Master and talk about the special challenges that they face in raising children, in being parents, and being parents who are also abhyasis, who are practicing and working, and in the throes of a family life, and get the advice that would apply to them, but also apply to parents everywhere.
आफताबे.
Morning, everybody.
Morning. Thank you for taking the time to answer our questions and speak with us today. We're all parents of children of different ages, and we have a number of questions about striking the right balance and between our parenting and our spiritual practice and integrating the two. And we were wondering if you might have some advice for us on how to make the right balance between our commitment to the practice and the attention that we need to be giving to our children and making them come together.
Well, my philosophy is Indian philosophy, We don't split our commitment into different fields. We are committed, period. And that commitment works in whichever direction you turn it. It's a peculiar feature in the West that you have a commitment to your wife, a separate commitment to your children, yet one more for your work. You are sort of dissecting something which should be an integral whole. So that's my advice. Don't split up what is a unity into bits and pieces.
As a parent, I want the children to have good values and behave nicely in society. And at the same time, I'm afraid about the outside world when I see that the children who are growing up with spiritual values, we're teaching them to be sensitive and caring for other people. And in the outside world, there's so much of aggressiveness. And I worry.
Well, there's a saying which is as old as the hills, as they say, that a human being is born into a hostile environment. And environment includes society, it includes the outside, the streets, the schools, and the parents. People don't realize how often the children tend to be like the parents, Till the age of 11, 12, they like to emulate their parents. For them, the parents are gods and goddesses. And then by age 13, the gods are off their pedestals. And that is because the parents are only parents in the physical sense, but not parents in the emotional and the moral sense. In India, we have this attitude that, for instance, certain things the children can see and not see. Certain things they should read, much they should not read. But in an environment where everything goes and where the schools are, where the school curriculum includes most intimate things of life, on the contention or in the belief that if they know what they are getting into, there is no danger in it. I don't see how I can agree with that. Because some things are natural, Like a baby, when it is born, it knows where to find its milk. You don't have to give it a 3-day course, It knows. Similarly, after marriage, we know what to do and how to do it. You don't have to undergo courses for it. Now, when you introduce this to them at the age of 7, 8, the tendency of children is to experiment. And you make that possible by giving them whatever additional things they need to protect themselves from the results of the experiment. So it is society which is a problem today, as far as I see it. I don't mean any disrespect to any particular society, but that's what it is.
So, what can we do as parents?
As parents, number one, your responsibility is to be models for your children. Education starts at home. It starts in the cradle. I believe that when we, this is a typically Eastern and an Indian view, but in India, the babies grow up with us in the same bed as the parents, And very often, till age 15, 16, they are in the same bedroom. So it calls for discipline in parents. See, what I should call a bedroom discipline. And it means perhaps periods of continence because the children are there. You must learn to control yourselves, not push the children into another room just because you want to be free to enjoy marital bliss. So here you have in the Western world, the tendency is to isolate the children, babies from day one, put them in a separate room. Of course, you have all these modern conveniences like speaker phones so that if the child weeps, you can hear it in your bedroom. The idea behind it is you should be able to hear the child. Now you all hear about psychological bonding of children. How when you hold it close to your breast. How does a child recognize its mother? It's by the heartbeat. And if you put it in a crib in another room and you are having a second honeymoon all over, it's no good for the baby. And the Western world, I find every day I receive letters from Abhyasis. From mothers having problems with daughters, from fathers having problems with sons. And then, of course, you see this tragedy of divorce, where parents put their own happiness, pleasure before their children's. So often we have children born to the woman by a former husband, with children born to the man by a former marriage, and the children of the current marriage together. Lot of hatred, No child wants his father to leave it and go away with another woman. It begins to hate the parent. If the woman does it, it begins to hate the mother. It is all generated by the parents, you see. I'm sorry, I must seek your pardon if I transgress into the basic etiquette of not criticizing, but you asked a question and I have to answer it. This is my view.
As a mother, one of the things I struggle with is I feel I love my children so much, but there is a lot of attachment with that. And with the attachment, then I get angry because I'm attached. I push them to succeed because I am attached. And one of the questions I have is, how do we cultivate a love that is detached attachment?
Well, you see, the basic problem is, shall I say, there is a duality here, an innate opposition. You want the children to be like you, and at the same time you know what you are and you would hate the children to be like you. Again, I beg your pardon, but it is so. In your heart of hearts, you want the children to be something other than what you are. We have all messed up our lives. And we don't want our children to be like that. We don't want our daughters facing a divorce or an unwanted baby before marriage, you know. So you don't know how to do it because you didn't know how to do it yourself, perhaps. So you use the technique of harshness, of control, of parental authority, you see. Does it work? If you have been a good parent and set an example, the child will automatically obey you. Children know what is good for them. But what happens, you know, at a particular age, 7, 8, 9, they become rebellious. They say, you did it, mom. No? Why do you bother about me doing it? What sort of a mom were you to me? You know? So there again, it starts very early in life. And the attachment is because you are afraid of its material life. My marriage is a mess up. What is it going to do? I did all the wrong things. My child should not do it. No. So this is a concern which deteriorates into worry, and it can become paranoid. And then there is total alienation. Now in love, we must have freedom. As you sought freedom from your parental authority, from your parents, your children must have that freedom too. Proper education with freedom. See? I think that's the basic essential to bring up children. But we have improper education with total or seeking to have total control over the children's lives. It is like the commandments, thou shalt not do this, thou shalt not do that, come back at 10 o'clock at night or 8 o'clock or 9, as if, sin is committed only after 10 p.m. If a child is going to sin, it can sin in broad daylight, isn't it? It's a very tricky thing, I have also a son and I have grandchildren and I have had no problem. There is a peculiar, what should I say? I have had some peculiar observations that if the parents do it very badly, very awfully, to such an extent that the child hates it, then the child takes the opposite path. Where the parents are drunkards, the children get nauseated, they never touch a drink. But if you are just a social drinker, 3 pegs of whiskey in the evening or brandy, getting drunk on a Saturday night without the children seeing, they are tempted to drink. So I tell parents, if at all you want to go to hell, get there quickly. See, that will release your children from that possibilities. I know one boy. At age 21, he came across some evidence that his father was an immoral fellow. It was valid evidence because I saw it. And you know what he did? First thing he went was to a brothel. I said, why did you do it? He said, Chariji, I cannot hate my dad. And the only way I cannot hate my dad is to do what he did. And now I'm on a par with him, you see. How can I hate my father for doing something which I have done myself? You see how it works?
Master, you mentioned educating our children. Do you have a thought about introducing our children to the literature of Sahaj, both from us as parents just reading to them when they're young to actually making the books accessible to them in terms of their beginning to read them?
There is a song in Hindi, in the language of India, you see, which says, the best book is the heart. Everything is written in the heart. I mean, when we talk of samskaras and spirituality. So if the children see your cleanliness, not so much in action as in your heart. It's not enough to be like a Rockefeller and give away 2 billion in endowments to universities. That's not charity. Charity is giving away what you cannot afford to give. If I have only the price of a pizza in my pocket and I'm willing to give it to somebody who's hungry, that is charity. But a fellow who has, like Bill Gates, almost $1 trillion now, isn't it? And he gives 2 billion here, 4 billion, they don't even notice it. And people say, why he could have given us 20 million, for heaven's sake, why 2 million? It makes them ask for more. So clean living means proper values, not charity for showing off, but charity from the heart, love from the heart. One thing I have found in many modern affluent homes, the basement is full of dolls and toys for children. And of course, the ubiquitous television set. When you don't want the children, you push them into the basement. Honey, what do you want? Pepsi, Coke, And then you put Pringles, several boxes of them, open the TV, and they are not supervised. They are out of the way, now you are free to do what you like. So the isolation that you thrust upon them from babyhood is carried into adulthood. So where is the clean heart? If a child cannot say, Daddy, I'm going to sit with you, and you're not afraid of your son sitting with you or your daughter sitting with you or doing what you're doing, where is the clean living? Isn't it?
Yes, it's as if you can do it in front of your children with no shame,
Yes.
then it's clean living.
Then it's clean.
Yeah. You know, Master, when our daughter was 7.5, something, we discovered that even in spite of our written instructions and letters to the school and with friends and whatever, that she'd been introduced to meat eating. And she has found that as a way to be different from us when she wants to be different. And so while we don't cook, generally I don't cook any meat at home, she gets meat when we go out to the restaurants and things like that. I wonder sometimes, how much I don't want to pull the rubber band so tight that it...
No, you shouldn't do that. But you can always educate your children. Scientifically they say protein got out of meat is about 50 times as expensive as direct protein from vegetable sources. Right. You can tell her that. Why should a cow eat protein from vegetable sources and then you eat the cow to get that protein? It's very expensive. But people are not taught that way. You can teach them that this is going to give you the indigestion. It can be affected meat, like this beef scandal in England, you see. But if you make a moral issue of it, then it becomes a difficulty, you see. Because children rebel against moral codes which the parents have not themselves observed.
Well, and that she knows also that mom and dad didn't start out as vegetarians.
Yes, so you must tell them, honey, we also did it. Don't think you are the first. And you're not going to be the last. We did it. And from our experience, we are telling you. See, that carries more weight.
So, Master, with regards to prayer and the system, the Sajmark prayer, how do we introduce the kids to, for example, when we do the prayer at night, do we ask them to recite the prayer and understand the meaning of the prayer?
No, just bring them to it naturally. If you sit in prayer for a few minutes, they will follow you. I mean, it all comes back again and again to the problem that what parents don't do, they want their children to do, you see.
We were having a discussion with our children last night about Sajmark, and it was interesting because each one had their very different perceptions of it. And our oldest son, who is almost 15, said that, he said, well, I haven't really done a lot of thinking or looking into Sajmark because I think of it as an adult thing to do, adult activity, and I can't meditate until I'm 18 anyway, so I think of it as separate from what I'm doing, and I was wondering whether there's any way that we can, whether you have any advice for how we might be able to...
I have found that having them around when you're doing these things brings them in a natural way into it. If you isolate them and put them in the basement, like I said, doesn't help. Then they get to hate. I was once about to conduct satsang. It was in the evening. It was a place called Bhopal. I was on a stage this high, and a girl came from school. She was tall and well built. I thought she must be at least 18 or 19. And she came and said, "I hate you." She didn't even say good evening or anything. She just said, "I hate you." I said, "But why on earth would you do it?" She said, "Because you have taken my parents away from me. I don't even get a good breakfast on Sundays. They just leave something like for the dog on the table and I have to eat it." I said, "Okay, sit in meditation, we'll discuss afterwards." So after the sitting, I took her home, had her eat dinner with me. And by the end of the dinner, she was, that you can imagine the master sitting in front of you and giving you a sitting. It's the easiest. I find it. Who's giving me sittings? No, I'm giving you all sittings, but who's giving me a sitting? Often you find when you go to the source of a river, there is no river there. It's a source, a trickle of water between two rocks. Big deal. But as you come down, you find other trickles being added, and the mighty Amazon or the mighty Nile flowing out. So we are fed by so many sources, but similar sources. Not a gutter here and a sewer there and good water here, not like that. Nature sees to it. Nature is very blessed, very blessing. If you are on a path, it gives you everything that you need for that path. Even if you want to get drunk, it will send you friends who get drunk. It will show you only the pubs when you ride by. It's a very funny thing. If you're an architect and you're driving through Austin, you only look at the architectural features. If you want a pizza, you are looking for pizza areas. If you are after this, what is called this wonderful potato thing, McDonald's. French fries. And that big M, is appearing wherever you go. So we condition ourselves to see what we want to see, to eat what we want to eat. And when you are fixed and determined on reaching a goal in a particular path, like you have conventions of architects, convention of neurologists, you don't find architects and neurologists in the same forum. So spiritualists come together, we call it a satsang, a seminar. And by accretion, like that, it grows. There's more and more self-support. It is like molecular, stability. If you knock out an electron out of orbit, the whole thing changes. Nucleus and one electron. Nucleus and two. There are levels. And the change is only by knocking out an electron, nothing more than that. Isn't it?
So can we imagine that divine love is surrounding our children all the time?
First you imagine, then by the strength of your faith in your imagination, you make it happen. And then if you are, if you are really devoted to the path, you can create it.
You get what?
Create that atmosphere,
I see.
I mean, a bulb with some tungsten filament or whatever is giving so much light. And here is the human heart full of love and light. How do saints see, they, with their eyes closed, they see everything. I think it's the light of the heart which flows out and illuminates what you and I cannot see. But we believe in these things, you see. The things for which people have got Nobel Prizes. No? Nobody gives a Nobel Prize in spirituality. Perhaps there would be more faith in it.
Master, how do we be good role models for our children?
But I've just been talking about it all this time. Do what you would like your children to do. If you want your children to be clean, you be clean. See? If you want them to be moral, you be moral. If you want them to be truthful, you be truthful. But we train our children all in the wrong way. I have seen in India, telephone comes. Daddy, it's for you. Please tell the fellow that I'm not at home. The father tells the child. And it says so. And later on it thinks, but daddy, you are at home. You are telling a lie. Don't talk to your father like that. Parental authority. So parental authority is always used to cover up our own faults. Isn't it? And where you have no faults to cover, you don't need parental authority. There's only love. That family is harmonious. It grows like a flower bed full of roses. Parental authority is always invoked when our ego is hurt. And our ego is hurt when our children question us. See?
How to, when we're disciplining the children, how to keep the anger at the surface level just for that moment?
No anger at all. In education, there should be no anger.
That's interesting because she said discipline and you shifted it to education. So really, the discipline should be a
Discipline is
matter of
education.
education. Okay.
Disciplining is education. When you go to a driving school and they say don't exceed the speed limit, if it says 65, drive below 65, it is education.
Yes.
To do it is discipline.
I see. Okay.
Following the dictates of education is discipline. You have a cookbook, break 2 eggs, okay, broke 2 eggs. Whisked it, no? Now what? Pour it on the pan, pour it on. And that is discipline. What is discipline? Discipline is not marching to the commands and barrels of a drum, you say, and not that. Discipline is obedience to education. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife. The 10 Commandments, one of it says, I don't covet. I am disciplined, I am obedient, and my behavior is also correct. All the things go together. But if I accept it with the head and my body follows another path, it is indisciplined, it is disobedience, and it is tragic. Understand? So I don't see discipline as different from education. The two are one. The teaching is education, the following the teaching is discipline. That's all.
Sometimes children get very depressed about the world around them, and they express their depression in a number of ways, including saying, I just don't even want to live anymore. How do you suggest
You
parents?
must show the right side of life. You see, we all get depressed. Why children? I get depressed. I'm 73. I get depressed. I've examined myself very often. When I work and I look for results, I get depressed. You know. Or when I'm afraid that what I'm doing is not going to be productive, I get depressed. But if I don't care about what the result is going to be, but do my work because it is what I have to do, like the light burns, there may be nobody in this room, and it does not go to a huddle and say, oh, I'm depressed, there's nobody here to, no? So when we are able to detach the idea of the result, which is what the Gita says, you see, don't think of the result, he says, because the result belongs to me. I think there Krishna made a mistake.
Yeah.
My finding is that when I don't think of the result, I am confident. Because why do we think of the result? We only think of failure. Nobody is worried about success. No. He is going for a job interview, let us say. He is worried. Why? Because he may not get the job. Nobody says, oh, I'm going to get the job, I'm worried. Do you? Or my boss is calling me, he's going to give me a $50,000 raise. He's not worried. He goes, singing. So when we think of the result and the consequences of our action, we are always thinking of the negative side. Don't. And there's no trouble in life, there's no depression, there's no cause for worry. Even the lion, when it roams in the jungle, if it was worried about whether it's going to kill a goat or not today, it would fail. It goes out royally, and it gets. So the success or the secret of success is not to think of success. But unfortunately, the Western and especially the American tradition says nothing succeeds like success.
And children are taught all through their schooling that
All
to go
through schooling,
for
you must be number one, you must have the killer instinct, you must,
very competitive.
yes, 4-letter, 5-letter, 6-letter embellishments, isn't it?
You are successful if you have control over the results.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about the so-called difficult child? We often hear people say, oh, this is a difficult child. He
I
acts
have a
out.
feeling, it's a spiritual answer, not so much a sensible answer. I have a feeling that if people believe in samskaras, that a soul which is coming into this world against its every inner feeling and fiber, it rebels, it becomes rebellious. It doesn't want to be here. I mean, who would want to be here? If you knew the other life, And then, if you have read literature on near-death experiences, NDEs as they call them, many souls leave, but their time has not come, they come back and they are weeping when they come back. They say, oh, why do I have to come back here? But we are here and we are trapped here and we don't know what is waiting for us and we are afraid of death. Now, a soul which has experienced the bliss of the hereafter, the afterlife, surely doesn't want to come back here again. It's like a man let out of prison. Would he like to go back into prison again? So, difficult children are, in my mind, those souls which still retain some memory of that other life, and they rebel against coming here. Their birth is difficult, their conception even is difficult. And with them you have to be very gentle, very understanding, and tell them, my son, I also want to be where you were, you see, but for the non-sphere here, it's like being in a plane and being buffeted by the winds, Until you land, you are crazy.
That's a very comforting thought, actually. That's a very comforting thought, because I think at different times all of us feel like we have the most difficult child.
I mean, you see, it's a question of to what degree that soul keeps the memory of the previous life. Not a physical life, in between,
Right, okay.
And if that is very good, it's like going on a holiday, where you really enjoyed yourself and then you hate to come back home. Children say, why have you got to go back home? Can't we be here 2 days more? Isn't it? Even when visitors come to your house and the children are happy, they don't want the visitors to leave.
Master, you may have already answered this question that I want to ask you. You were a parent or a grandparent. What's the one thing that you learned in your parenting that you would most share with us?
Well, one thing that impressed me in my own childhood was, my father, he educated us without ordering us. He never gave us orders. He said, for instance, we were introduced to books at the age of 3, quite expensive books. When my father was earning 170 rupees, you know what 170 rupees is? Hardly $5. He bought books for us for thousands of rupees. And he didn't put them away and say children should not touch them. He left them on the table. He insisted that we don't dog-ear the pages. He insisted we don't open the pages and put it upside down on the table. This was education. And he used to cover our books with the craft paper, cut it and show us how to bind it. We did all this. It was an education. And when you teach your child with love, it's a totally different story from insisting that you do something in an authoritarian manner. This is what I was taught by my dad, and I hope I've been doing it with all of you too in some way or the other.
I don't want to jump in front of somebody, but if I have a question about baptism, because my family is Catholic and they're always concerned about baptism with Annalise, and we have not had her baptized because we just by now don't believe in it. But at the same time, when she was born, I brought her to you and wanted you to give her a blessing, and you touched her on the cheek, and I assume, from that somehow, I don't know if Sahaj Mark has baptism or I mean, we don't have baptism, but what is the role of baptism?
We don't have a ritualistic baptism, but the first sitting is a baptism. Like you say, a soldier was baptized under fire. A soldier becomes a soldier when he is on his first war, not sitting at ease, taking his girlfriend out in the jeep in the evening. So, baptism really means, in the Christian faith, you see, like Jesus was baptized by John. It is to remove the ignorance which the past has put upon you. In a sense, when we are born into this world, we forget our divine existence, such as it was, and we come into a totally material existence. Now, a person of the caliber of Jesus or Buddha had to be baptized by somebody else to remove that ignorance. It's like, you are taken into, say, a terrorist den with your eyes bandaged. But then it is opened there.
And Does the baptism actually do that? I mean, I always assumed it was a
Not now,
ritual.
not now.
Yeah.
It has become a mere ritual. That's why Babuji said avoid rituals, because it is like, sugar-coated lies, what you call white lies.
Should all Abhyasis parents desire or wish that their children also become Abhyasis, or should we just let the children grow naturally and let time take due course?
My master said the only way a river can reach the ocean is by flowing ever lower and lower and lower and lower until it reaches the sea. Now, when we teach our children to ever go higher and higher and higher in something, we are going against nature. I don't think we have to lead children into something or entice them into something. Naturally, they will come. So long as you don't obstruct that natural flow into the right life. We do it all the time. We say no meditation. You are not, now examination time. 15 days, no meditation. Whereas if they meditate, I have several examples of children in my Abhyas in Madras. One girl, aged 18, was with me for 6 weeks when I was traveling in the Himalayas. The day she came back, she had 3 days left for the exams. She topped in the whole university. Now, what was she doing? She wasn't studying books when she was with me. See, meditation clears the mind. It makes the thinking natural, sharp. Instead of promoting it, we say, no, you go and sit with your books. We can come to meditation after the exams. Now the child is taught two things. Then meditation may harm my material progress. If I don't make the grades in education, I'm not going to be a computer specialist or a surgeon. I'm not going to get $500,000 like my dad. So you say no meditation 2 weeks, it says no meditation at all. Who's doing it? Isn't it?
I first used to tell my children, okay, I'm meditating here, you be in that room. And then later I realized I was creating a separation.
Yes.
So I left the door open and they said, we want to meditate. I said,
Yeah,
sit
you just
next
sit
to
down,
me.
close your eyes and sit. Don't do anything else.
And then after 5 minutes they went away and they said, we
Even
meditated.
meditation should not be, presented as something which is good for you or not good for your children. The principle is the same. You don't drink whiskey and give your child milk. You also drink milk if you want the child to drink milk.
So
If,
I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Well, I was just to follow up then. If our children express a desire to sit and meditate, they can sit quietly.
Let them sit quietly and think of God, whatever they want to see.
Yes. And
They will get
that's
tired
okay.
of it soon enough.
So we don't have to say you have to wait till 18
You don't have to
to
say
sit.
anything. You tell them the formal introduction will be at 18. Like you can go to school only at a particular age. I can't put you in school at month 6. They understand. And when they insist on sitting with you with eyes closed, in 15 minutes they get up and walk away quietly. So what is wrong about that?
I know the answer,
Your
but
final answer.
a lot of people may want to know. Once somebody asked in Molina if it's okay when if kids can be in the same room when they're doing their individual cleaning in the evenings. If the children walk in and out of
They
the
can be there, no harm. Only thing they should not be on your lap or something like that. So thank you, all of you.
Thank you, Master. Thank you, Master.
आफ़ताबे मारफत ए नुक्तादां ने मार